Good afternoon, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Chinn. I am the co-host to the host, Dr. Chinn herself. Good afternoon, Dr. Chinn, and welcome.
Good afternoon, my sister and friend. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was busy. Had a couple of speaking engagements, so it was good and busy. And now this is a chill spot for me.
All right, too. I was talking to my husband about you last night, as a matter of fact, and I said Dr. Chin still like house music. He's like, really? She a pastor? I'm like, yes, she keeps it real and she like house music. And he
Yeah.
thought that was the funniest thing because I was telling him, I said, I told her that people keep telling you should be a pastor, but I told you you swear too much. And he's like, you said that? I was like, I said it. I said because and it's so funny because he was talking about so someone asked me to help them launch a church. And so I had to meet with the pastor yesterday to help him start a new church. And my husband is a clown. So my husband took and said, I probably got more people on my Bible study list. I said, you are so stupid. And he's hilarious. But anyway, we were talking about you last night. We were talking about the house music. So that was funny.
Night long.
Yes, all night long. So today's your episode is about, not losing yourself in leadership. And so when you sent that title, something instantly popped into my head. I remember a long time ago, this was years ago. I went to my pastor, her name was Pastor Barbara. And I said there because one young lady, so this young lady used to work with my mom. They worked at the county youth house. And the young lady came to church one day and she was like, I called Pastor Barbara. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And in my mind, I'm thinking, and you answered? And she answered the phone. And I said to her, like later on, like we were in like in a small group meeting. I said, Pastor Barbara, I said, why do you answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like that's a lot. And she said, I have to. That's what I've been charged to do. And so I said to her in that same sense, like, yeah, I probably would make a horrible pastor because at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm asleep, do not wake me up. So, but she said that's what she had to do. So I'm glad that you're going to talk about this topic because is that something pastors have to do? Is there no cut off?
So that's something that she chose to do. It's not what pastors have to do. For me, if my phone rang at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would think it would be one of my family members, right? And so you have to train people how to treat you, and you have to have boundaries. Every relationship must have boundaries. So no, that's not something pastors have to do. If someone called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, my first question would be, did you call Jesus first? I mean, you call him first, right? No, that's not something we have to do. That's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
obviously, she gave.
yeah, and a lot of people used to do that for her. So for the pastors that are listening who feel like this is something I have to do because I've been called to shepherd the flock, what do you say to those people? Because that's a lot for me.
So I think oftentimes that we measure our serving or our servanthood by false standards. We measure them by what everybody else is doing. And because I believe that we're in this space where we feel we have to compete with people, we feel, well, if I don't call, if I don't answer the call, if I don't do this, if I'm not open at this, they're going to go someplace else. But, so that kind of is misaligned with our faith. And what's for you is for you. And who is for you is for you. The scripture says that God sets the members in the body as it pleases him. So if someone is set in the local body in your church and part of your flock and you're their shepherd and you're taking care of them, they're not just going to jump ship. I don't, if my sister doesn't answer the phone and not there 24 hours a day, I don't go find me another sister, right? Not available, you're not available. But I think we weigh it and serve by false measurements. We do what we think everyone else is doing, and we want to be there for people so that they don't go someplace else. But we need a balance. And so for me, balance is about purpose. Balance to me and purpose go together. To me, you cannot separate them. It is what it is, no matter what it is concerning, whether it's vacation, whether it's your home, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your ministry, whether it's your business. Balance and purpose have to go together.
How do you tie the two together though? Because I feel like I've heard entrepreneurs say, "Oh, there's no such thing as balance." balance. I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say that, like, there is no such thing as balance. Now, me personally, I have to create balance in my life because I know otherwise I would be completely burned out. But there are a lot of people out there, especially in the business world, who really feel like there is no such thing as balance in business.
So you have to create it. You have to know, you have to not schedule your priorities, but prioritize your schedule, right? You have
Mm,
to decide what's important to you, and you have to decide where they belong. So balance is important. You think if your pancreas didn't uh, produce enough, what is it,
it's
insulin,
like,
then you have diabetes. Balance is important. If your blood pressure weren't normal, then you'd have hypertension or hypotension. Balance is important. When you think about all the trillions of whatever it is water that's in the world with the earth revolving, and we're not drowned, balance is important. If you have an ear infection and you got water, balance is always important. And for me, because this is faith based, even though it's talking about money and business, Proverbs tell us that a false balance is an abomination to the Lord. And I learned this lesson the hard way. In ministry, I learned this the hard way.
so when you say
Um,
you learned it the hard way, what happened? What did you do?
I was a director. I was a Sunday school superintendent, and I was director of teacher training at my church, and it's a mega church, right? And so
Hmm.
I was always doing something. I was always there. I was training. I was teaching. I was observing. I was always there. But my husband never complained, never said anything. So one night, I, true, we're keeping it real. I was at Bible study at church, and I went a little early. I always went early because I'd like to be in prayer. And I'm at the altar, girl. I'm on my knees with my holy self, and I'm just worshiping and talking to the Lord. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, "There are many widows in the church." And I'm like, hmm? He said, "Yeah, there are many widows in the church." And I said, "So why are you telling me?" This is a real conversation at the altar. And God said, "Look around." So I opened my eyes and I looked around, and there are like five, I think, entrances into the sanctuary.
Hmm.
Every entrance, there were women coming in the church. And I said, "So God, what are you saying?" He said, "They're widows, not because their husbands are dead, but because they've left their husbands for the church." And
Oh,
I said, "God, am I one?" And he said, "Thou knowest." I jumped up from that altar, went to my seat, and started writing my resignation letter to the bishop, right?
wow.
So I learned the hard way. And when I had the conversation with my husband, he said, "Well, that's why I was always at work." And I said, "Well, that's why I was always at church." So you see how that can be divisive in a marriage?
Yeah. Oh, that is so powerful. And I think about that. I had a friend recently. She told me, she said, um, she and her husband are very busy. So they super
Mhm.
busy, right? And there is no balance. To the point where she said, I had to write a letter to my husband and he wrote one to me. She said that's what they did when they were in college and they were dating. Because they've been married for 25 years. She said, because I realized we started to be like two ships in the night passing each other. And so, but she had the wisdom to say, you know what, let me write him this letter. Let us go back to where we were. And so that's so powerful. You have left your husband for the church. There are a lot of people like that though, Pastor. So what about the pastors, who feel like I have to be there, I've seen first ladies take the back seat. They come second because the congregation comes first. I'm the leader. I got the lead. You got to understand that. So you take the back seat because I got the lead.
So to me, that's adultery.
Mhm.
Because it's a form of adultery, because scripture says that the church is Christ's bride. So if
Mm.
you're a pastor and you keep leaving your wife to go hang out with Christ's bride, then you're committing adultery. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and God honors marriage. Marriage was ordained of God. And even in Matthew, there was a time when Jesus had called the disciples, and some of them were casting their nets. Some of them he told to leave your nets, and some of them had to repair their nets. That could be in your business. That can be in, even like I say, in anything that concerns you. There's a time to cast, meaning there's a time to work. There's a time to leave, there's a time to go on vacation, and there's a time to mend. What do you need to fix in your marriage? What do you need to fix in your business? What do you need to fix in your ministry? Whatever it is, there's a time and a purpose for everything and a season for everything under the sun. And so for business owners, I'll be straight up with you. This is a dilemma I'm facing right now. And today, Audrey, I made a list. Today, I made a list of all the things that I do ministry wise. And it's about 7 things that I do on a regular basis, some monthly, some bi monthly, some weekly, some bi weekly. And I kept feeling, I'm like, God, I'm retired, right? And so I want to keep doing what I love to do, which is teaching classes and practical classes and theological classes, but I don't want it to become a drudgery. So I said, God, I don't want to do this and this and this anymore. What do you say? So I put it in my prayer book, and I'm going to be praying about it. I don't want to keep doing all these things every day and every week. You understand what I'm saying? So I want to enjoy life, and it is to be enjoyed. He said, I gave you everything that pertains to life and godliness. I gave you all these things to enjoy. So for people who say that you can't sleep and you can't do that, they don't really know who they are and what their purpose is, and they don't know how to create balance. That's what they won't admit. They don't know how.
Dr. Chinn, I could tell you. So, I'm gonna say this. So, for those of us who are workaholics,
Mm-hmm.
workaholics,
Mm-hmm.
to not even be doing all of the things, you feel guilty.
Yeah.
You feel guilty, and the reason I say that is because I feel exactly like you. I really want to just enjoy my life, right? And when I
Mm-hmm.
tell you, me cleaning my plate off has made me feel so guilty. It is unbelievable. Like I'm chopping things off, moving, and I'm dealing with, like, it's almost like a part of me is just dying, and it's like the guilt, like, okay, Audrey, you should not be just chilling right now, you should be at the computer. And I literally sat at my computer, I think it was Saturday, to the point my back was killing me. I had to get up and take a picture. I sat here all day because I said, you need to be working, you need to be getting this done, you need to get this done. And I sat here and I worked like for hours. It must have been 6 or 7 hours straight. I got up out my chair and my back was killing me. So what about the person who hear you, but they just feel so guilty?
That was me, right? That was me. If I wasn't doing something, and there's times when I still struggle with that. Like I'll walk around the house and like, girl, you know you need to be doing something. If I'm sitting down for too long, I started to feel guilty. So that's an initial response. That's an initial response from your psyche, from your mindset, from your habits that you've created for yourself all your life. And so guilt is not of God. So you
Mm.
have to learn how to push that off and say to yourself, Linda, Audrey, it's okay to chill out. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to veg out. And then what you'll find is that so much comes to you when you're chilling, when you're vegging out, when you're relaxing. And then you can jot those things down and put them in your place when you get to be productive. But what we don't realize is that we get more intellectually and psychologically and emotionally downloaded when we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's an addiction. It's just as much as nicotine, alcohol, drugs. That busyness is an addiction.
I agree. I agree. I remember reading an article by Ariana Huffington, and she was talking about when she had launched her post, how she would just work, work, work. And she said she had passed completely out because she worked so hard one time. She was when she woke up, she was like laid out on the floor because she was just working so hard. So for those who lead so many people, turning that off and making themselves a priority is something that they should do. But how do they do that? Like, how do they say, you know what, I'm about to turn this off? Should they, are there some steps they can take? Like, I feel like 12-step program, like it's a 12-step program. Are there steps they should be taking?
Yes. And first, I would say, one, be honest with yourself.
Mm.
Be honest with yourself and ask yourself the hard questions. Is this smart? Like, is this really intelligent? Is this practical? Is this working for my whole family? Or is this just good for me because it's what I want to do? Is this okay for my spouse? Is this okay? Even a dog wants to be taken out every now and again. right? May not be a day, but even a dog wants to go out every now and again to
Yep.
handle business. So you have the honest conversation with yourself. And if you're a pastor, you lead a congregation, a group, a business, have the conversation with the people. Have the conversation. We're so afraid of how we're perceived by people. We want to be liked. We become a society that likes and loves means something to us, and we become offended even virtually, right? We become offended virtually if we don't get a lot of likes, if we don't get a lot of hits, if we don't get a lot of love, those little heart emojis, um, because we virtually you don't have to be honest with anybody. But if you've got a real life relationship, be honest and say, listen, I've realized that this has not been healthy for me. I'm going to tell you something else that happens. When you have those open and honest conversations, you're going to hear people say, I was thinking the same thing, but I just didn't want to say it. I was wondering why we had to come every week, but I just didn't want to say it. I was feeling such a way, but I just didn't want to say it. And then that way, too, as a leader, you give people permission and you lead by example. You give people permission to be their real authentic selves, not this fake authentic. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but their real authentic selves. The other thing I would say is as you're teaching people that if our children are watching us work, 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 we teach what we know, but we reproduce who we are. So if your
Mm.
daughter sees you work, 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 and she gets married, guess what she's going to do? Neglect her husband, neglect her children, neglect her marriage, and work, 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 because that's the example that was set before them, right? So I would say have the conversation with yourself, have the congregation with those that you lead and the people that love you, and even ask for their feedback. And say, I've got to do this for my mental health. I need this for my emotional stability, and you need it too. Let's chill out for a while. I know pastors who take a whole month off. I know pastors who take the whole summer off.
What?
Yes, they stop Bible study. Yes, they have other people come in and minister during the summer months. I know pastors who do it, and I'm telling you, when they come back, they are on fire.
Wow. I was talking to my daughter, I think it was Thursday, and she had just written a book. She just wrote a book called Healing Her. And I was helping her get the book up on Amazon and everything. And she was talking about her healing process. So as a parent, you say, well, what did I do? She's like, well, you were good, but, and so I'm bracing for the but. She said, but I just wish there was more time that we spent together when I was younger, right? But now she knows what that feels like because she has a daughter. And she has to, her daughter is 3 and she's extremely smart. And when she gets off work, she said, Mommy, you off work? And she was like, yeah. She's like, yeah. She's excited. But I said to her, now you understand that I had to work too. So now you get it. She's like, I know. So that's why I'm very conscious about how I'm doing with my daughter. And I said, good. Because I was like, oh my God, what is she going to say? So even recognizing that right now, what you just said, they look at us and they see what we do and they kind of copy that. But if you're wise, you don't copy that. If
Right.
you're
So that
wise.
goes if you're wise, if you're discerning, and that's right.
Mm,
If you're wise and discerning and perceptive, and you catch the lesson, if you catch the lesson, you don't have to be a wife beater because you saw your daddy beat your mama, right? You don't have to be an alcoholic because your mama or your daddy was one. And so the thing too, the potential danger is that is swinging to the other side of the pendulum, right? You really, that's why balance is important. It's very important. And I tell people, I was counseling somebody not too long ago, married woman, been married for over a decade, and just going through some things. And I said, you haven't had any time to yourself. It's okay to go spend some time by yourself. It's important to your marriage. Go somewhere by yourself. Then have some time with your girlfriends. Then have some time with just you and your spouse. Then have some time as family vacation. So you have these pockets of time where you have disconnected from everybody else to take care of your whole self. Because there's a whole person in you. There's this saying that the young people say nowadays, I have a whole baby. Oh, I have a whole husband. I have a whole, okay, you have a whole self too. That's your soul. That's your soul. Your soul consists of your mind, your will, which means your choices, and your emotions, your feelings. And so we have to learn how to take care of our souls in order to be healthy. And it's okay to say no. Scripture tells us, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. So when we start giving excuses, well, no, I can't go because that gives the other person an opportunity to say, well, you can always do this. This, see, they want to give you a way out so that they can get their yes from you. They want, people want what they want at the end of the day. No means no. It's as simple as that. And then you have to woo-saw and settle down. I'm like, ooh, I said no. When you start doing that, you're going to start looking around for stuff to do and start piddling. And it's okay. It's a process. It's a process. Every time you take away something from yourself, you give yourself something. You give yourself time to sit down on the sofa with the remote, put your feet up with a glass of tea, whatever it is, right? And just give yourself permission. I had to learn that, Audrey, with putting the timer on my phone. I
Mm.
started early. This is how I had to save myself. I started with 60 seconds. Then I started with 5 minutes, not answering any text messages. I'm not looking at my laptop. I'm just not going to do that.
Well,
That
you
the
know,
train.
there's a lot of people find it very hard to disconnect from them devices. I mean, people wake up in the middle of the night looking at now I won't. I'm like you, I'll disconnect. So my phone goes off at 11 o'clock at night, doesn't come back on until 7 o'clock the next morning. And so every once in a blue moon, if I can't sleep, I might be on TikTok laughing at 1 o'clock in the morning. But other than that, I'm really disconnected. But for the people who feel like I'm gonna miss something, if I disconnect, I'm gonna miss something. So I gotta stay connected. What do you say to that person?
What are you going to miss? What are you going to miss that is detrimental to any part of your being?
Mm.
See, that's a simple question, but the answer is difficult because we really don't know the answer. But it's simple. You're not going to miss a doggone thing. You will be just fine. It's just like an addiction because it is addiction. I remember I did a short video on do you have a CPA, and everybody was all excited because I know that they thought I meant a certified personal accountant, certified, what do you call it?
Professional accountant.
Certified personal accountant. Do you have a cell phone addiction? That's what I was asking the people. Do you do you do you right?
That's yeah.
We have mobile device addictions.
Mhm.
And anything. That's why I'm so excited about the next podcast where we're going to talk about how to deal with distractions. Distractions are deadly. They will kill your relationships. They will kill your peace. They will steal your joy and they rob you of your purpose.
Mm.
Staying connected can do the opposite of what you think it is doing. So to lead without losing yourself, you got to even know who yourself is. A lot of us outside of that, we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
We don't know who we are.
You know,
And
and that's another biggie, Dr. Chinn, because a lot of people don't know who they are, and they're strong. I talk to people, a lot of people who say, "I just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know, so I don't do anything." Right? So that's how they get addicted to the phone. So I guess one of the first thing they should figure out is like, who am I, and what's really important, like what's really important. And I think too, they, that they think that the things that are important to them shouldn't be important to them, but these are the things that are important to you,
yeah,
and they feel embarrassed or they feel like this shouldn't be important to me, so I'm not going to even share that this is important to me because people are going to look at me a certain way because I have a friend. She told me, she said, "Look, I don't want to work. I'm tired. I don't want to work." And I'm like, "Okay, listen, is that's what's going to make you happy, ma'am? Okay." But I feel like there is a sense of um shame behind that. She's worked her entire life, and
yeah.
she's retired, and she has pension coming in, and so if you don't want to work, don't in my mind don't work. So people don't
Don't
even know who
work.
they are, or they feel ashamed about, this is the lifestyle I want to lead. I'm ashamed, but I don't want to tell anybody.
No. So we have a class coming up at the Linda Chin Ministries Institute of Biblical Studies. It is November the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and the 15th and 16th about discovering your purpose and learning your life mission and write your life mission statement. I can rattle off my life mission statement in at the drop of a dime. And see what people don't understand. Yes, I'm a minister of the gospel, but my life mission statement applies to all facets of my life. It applies to all facets and on all areas of my life. It took me time. It takes some work, but I'm gonna tell you, I've seen people 78 years old, and I've had them in my class 78, 65, 63. When they got to the end of that class, all they could do was weep and cry and feel like they wasted their life. The good news is oftentimes people are already doing what they're born to do and they just don't realize it. But when you
Mm.
know it beyond a shadow of a doubt, you know what to say no to. You know what things not to. You know you're not going to go to a conference. Listen, I'm not going to a healing conference because I'm not called to the healing ministry. I'm not going to. You understand? I'm not going to
Yeah.
spend my money on that. I'm not going to go shopping and look for all the greatest fashions because I can throw something in a sewing machine and I can do that. It when you know that you know that you know when to say yes, you know when to say no, and you feel good about it.
Yeah, and I think that was her issue. She was guilty about saying I don't want to do this. Like, I'm just not there. It's not some. I'm not passionate about it. It stresses me out. She felt a tremendous amount of guilt, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, man, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. You know, give me those dates again. I want to drop it in the chat so anybody who want to take the class can take the class. November.
It's November 8th, 9th, and 10th, and the 15th and the 16th, 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8th, 9th, and 10th, 15th and 16th. And they can go to eventbrite.com or to my website, lindachin.com, www.lindachinministries, and register for that class.
Okay, 16. All right, I'm putting it
Any
in.
age, any gender.
I want to post it so people who want to go, the website is there. Let's pop that up there.
It's one of my favorite classes to teach.
Yeah, I think that's important too because I feel like there are a lot of people who want their purpose. They just don't know how to find it, and like you said, they don't recognize what it is. I know for me, I'm a big idea person. Like I can come, I sit and listen. That's a gift, and I can pull out this whole plan right out of my head in a matter of an hour, right? But that's a gift, and I know I like launching things. I don't like running things.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
I like launching things. I don't like running things. But it took me a
Wow.
long time to figure that out, Dr. Chin. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that this class is going to help a lot of people understand who they are. It took me I'm talking about a good 15 years to figure that part out. I like launching stuff. I don't necessarily want to run them all, you know. So helping other entrepreneurs launch is a great thing for me. Like I love it. That's why this man called me to help him launch his church yesterday because I'm a launcher.
You're not only a launcher, so you're a problem solver, right?
Yes.
I've listened to you on various networking programs, and people will state a problem, and I've watched you do this on the same show. Like, and you would get it one person, and the next person, and the next person. That's a gift. That's part of
Mm,
all that all works together. You're problem solving. So once the problem is solved, you want to move on to the next thing.
mm.
That's why you don't like
Yeah.
running. You
Yeah, I am a problem solver, and I don't like fluff. And so my daughter, I talked to my daughter last week. She called me. She said, you know, she made it. Somebody called her, and she was real calm with the conversation. So I started asking questions. Did you ask this? She's like, nobody thinks like that. I didn't ask all those questions. I didn't think about all of that. And I was like, okay. So, and I have to remember to tone it tone it down because my mind is thinking you should have asked this, and then she's like, yeah, I didn't ask any of that, and she did. She said, I didn't ask any of that. I wasn't even thinking like that. Oh, nobody thinks like that. And I was like, okay, okay. All right then. So, you know, I know when to fall back and stay in my place. But so what made you want to do this topic today? Because I found that this was a really good topic. Not that the other ones weren't, but this was a good one too. Because I know there are a lot of leaders that I'm around, and everybody we wear all this weight and all these clothing on us because we want to lead and be the best we could be for everybody. What made you decide to talk about this topic today?
because the over the weekend, like I said, I had a couple of speaking engagements and got a counseling session coming up this week with somebody, and basically it's about the same thing. And this one leader was telling me they've got this one issue with this one person. It's always calling them, always texting them, and they don't know how to wean them, off the breast and all of this. And I'm saying you're losing yourself because you feel like you have to be available to people. In that movie, The Bourne Ultimatum, who was it with Matt Damon? He said, somebody made me and I'm going to find him. I'm going to find him because he didn't know why he was acting and doing the way he was. I'm going to find who made me because I've got to figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so we have to search. I don't care what people say about the universe and Buddha and all of that. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I believe that's how it's made. If you want to figure out the purpose of something, go back to the manufacturer. If your wash machine breaks down, you're going to the manufacturer to figure out what's breaking down. And I'm looking at all of these leaders and they don't know how to have a good time. They don't know how to shut down. They don't know how to date. They like, so this one event I went to, I ain't gonna lie. I went with dressed down. Okay. And people were just like looking at me, and it was just all weekend. Last week I did the same thing. I had on my Chuck Taylors, I had on my sweatsuit, and you know that I don't need to be like everybody. I know how to chill out. I know how to relax. So I leave myself so that I don't lose myself. I got so tired of not knowing who I was. And then at the end of the day, I was so drained of giving myself away that I had nothing for myself. That's why I wanted to do this topic. When you're drained and you don't have anything else for yourself, that's a problem. That's a problem. If you're falling asleep and can't even stay up 10 minutes to enjoy yourself, to enjoy a movie, to go look at the trees, to listen to the birds, to go sit in a park, that is a problem if that is your lifestyle.
You know, Dr. Chinn, I want to go back to something you said earlier. You said that your husband said that you were always at church and he was always working. I feel like a lot of people use work and ministry and overindulgence and other things as a way to escape, especially work. Like, I'm working overtime. I'm working overtime. And so your partner's probably looking at you like, but why? Why are you working so much overtime? But I feel like that's an escape technique too, because if I'm working, then I don't have to talk, I don't have to listen, I don't have to share because I'm working.
It is, but then you have to pluck it up at the root. And I always say, if you really want to know the root cause of something, a lot of people say 3 times, 5 times. I say, ask the question why 7 times. What? Just ask, keep asking why, and you will get to the root of the problem. So those are band-aids. I mean, those are band-aids, right? Working all the time. But if he and I had not had that conversation, we would have kept being ships in the night. You understand what I'm saying? We'd have been living like roommates instead of like a married couple, having intimate conversation, being physically intimate, enjoying each other, wanting to go on vacation together, wanting to just sit and cuddle, or just, you getting on my nerves. You go sit over there. It's all good. It's all good, but you have to know the root. Why are you working all the time? Are you not managing your money? Do you have something that you're trying to escape? Is it yourself? Is it somebody else that you live with? Right? Those are addictive behaviors where we are hiding in plain sight. And so many people are hurting. So many people don't love enough of themselves and know themselves enough to know, because they're good leaders, but they're building their leadership on the altar of the sacrifice, and sacrificing something else that's just as or more valuable. Because at the end of the day, the job's going to be done, the business is going to be gone, the ministry you're going to get too old to do this, and what are you going to have? What's going to sustain you? What's going to be your joy?
That's powerful, and I think that's a good question. So, whew, as always, I mean, this is your show. If you got more to talk about, let's talk about it. But I just feel like that's a message that a lot of people need to hear, because there are a lot of leaders who are. I remember talking to I have another client. She's a pastor as well, and she was talking to me about. She said, I counsel a lot of pastors, and I said, really? She was thinking about a podcast idea, and I said, really? She's like, yeah. She said, because they get on the pulpit and they leave, and they get up and behind closed doors and bleeding in the dark.
Yeah.
And I said to her, really? And I said, that's another podcast. And she said, Bleeding in the Dark. I was like, yes. And I said to her, because you talk to that particular group of people, there are other people out there who need to hear what you have to say. And so I said all that to say, as a leader, who does the leader talk to? I'm the leader, because if they feel embarrassed about talking to people like most people do, who are they going to talk to?
So you know what a lot of successful CEOs do? They go to like that show Undercover Boss. You ever see that?
Hmm?
They have to go undercover. There's a reason they go undercover, because people won't be honest with them as they show up with their CEO suit on, right? And their Via Spiga shoes and their red bottom. People won't be authentic. But at the end of the day, you're still going to the same people to find out the truth. So when people know that you are real, when you're down to earth, they know you're approachable. When they know you're approachable, they'll feel honest. If you give them a pass, there are attorneys that will say, or investigators who will say, this is off the record. Reporters will turn off the recorder and say, this is off the record. In other words, I'm not going to hold this against you. However, you have to get to the real deal. If you have to give them doggone index cards at the beginning of the service and say this is anonymous, do that. And then say to you, we have to be honest. I'm so, oh goodness. People have itching ears. We want to feel good. That's why we give trophies to kids who don't even pass. Look, you didn't even win nothing. You didn't even get to the finish line and we giving them trophies. Listen, when I was coming up, if you lost, you're daggone lost. And that's what you call keeping it real. So we've dumbed down people. We've babied them down. We've thinned out their skin and wonder why everybody's dealing with anxiety issues, drug issues, he hurt me issues, because we've gotten so soft. But there are things that tell you when you're losing yourself. There are telltale signs when you're losing your family. There are telltale signs. That's why private investigators make so much money, baby, right? So we got cameras everywhere, right? Recorders, cameras even in our house, and people don't even know because you're recording what your kids doing because
Right.
we're trying to find out what's really going on. And a friend of mine, one of my spiritual sons, said this to me today. He's a pastor, and he said, "I learned." He said that my children. He said he learned this someplace else, that lie to you when you overreact about something. So even as leaders, if people are not telling you the truth, either they don't feel that you're approachable or you've overreacted to something. But some of the telltale signs that we're losing ourselves, and even as leaders, is when you are fatigued all the time. When you're just tired all the time, unless it's a medical issue, when you're fatigued all the time. If your household responsibilities are slipping through the cracks because you're always over there, and everybody has household responsibilities. I don't care who we are. Right? Everybody. Everybody.
Everybody.
Right? When you're feeling badly, when you announce to your family, I'm on my way to a meeting, and you don't really want to tell them. When you've got something to do and you're feeling like I really don't want to tell them, that's when you're feeling guilty. That tells you something is out of balance. I really don't want to tell them that I got to stay late tonight. Something is out of balance, right? When you get convicted, not feeling quite right in your spirit, that's when people don't know it's the Holy Spirit, they'll say something told me, right? Everyone has a gut instinct. Your gut and your instinct will tell you when you are out of balance. I don't care what anybody tells you. You know, right? You know when certain things that were required that no longer bring you joy. You know you're out of balance. When you're no longer having fun, it's no longer the thing that was supposed to. I love doing this. You're out of balance, and you need to take a break, right? When everything, this is what I think we touched on, that you do outside of the house is straight, but marriage is a mess, right? Your kitchen is a mess. Your closet is a mess. Your car is a mess. Your garage is a mess, right? Your bathroom is a mess. Something is just not right. And so when you don't want to be there anymore, when you don't want to be someplace anymore, that's a telltale sign that you're leading, but you're losing yourself. You're losing yourself. And a red flag is when you are defined by what you do.
Mm, mm,
When you're defined and you define yourself as what you do, you're leading, but you've lost yourself.
yeah.
When that consumes all of your time, you're leading, but you've lost yourself. And after a while, you don't even know who you are anymore, and you become robotic,
Mm-hmm. Mm,
right?
yeah. A lot of people identify with what they do as who they are. So there are a lot of lost people out there. And I got you said something about the garage. I'm like, oh Lord, not the garage, because my garage is a hot mess, a hot mess. And I go and I said to my husband, oh, we need to go in this garage and do something with this garage. Every time I go out to Dr. Chin, I'm like, oh, so I don't know what that's saying about me with my garage, y'all. That your garage is a mess. I think what it was when we downsized our house, because we had a big house, because we had a house full of people, and we had all this stuff. And instead of throwing stuff away, it was like we'll throw it away when we get to the other house, which we didn't do that. Now the garage is a mess. So I was like, not the garage though. Okay, okay, but the
Yeah,
garage.
with everything. You know what I'm saying.
I do. I
Um,
know. I'm just being funny. I'm being funny. Like, oh Lord, not the garage, because my garage is a mess. So identifying with who they are, with what they do, is who they are. And think about that for a second, because if you stop doing what you do, who are you?
who are you? When you stop practicing law, who are you?
That's
Right?
a big one.
When you start practicing medicine and you stop the construction job, you start the hair, when you close down the hair salon, the barber shop, the mechanic, then who are you? Yeah, you can always do hair, you can always do someone's hair, but who are you?
Yeah.
At the
Mm.
end of the day, it's always important to know. And this is why I tell people study your children, study your children, and don't try to make them be something that you want them to be, so that they know who they are, so that they can lead and do without losing who they are. And so for me, Audrey, I love dancing. I love to dance. And I remember I was working this job. I was HR manager and I was the executive assistant. I was a whole lot of things, this position in this job. And there was one part of the business that I functioned as HR manager too, which was a fitness club. Um, they played music all the time. You know, if you go in a fitness club, you don't realize you always hear music. So when I
Mhm.
would go to that side of the building and I got to the point where I could hear music, I would start moving. And the fitness club director said, "You just can't help yourself." She didn't realize.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it, right? And I said, "It's part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's just part of who I am. It doesn't. I don't care if it's rock and roll, country, western, blues. It's part of who I am." Right? So I like being who I like who I am. That took me a long time to get there. A lot of people don't like who they are. They have low self-esteem,
Yep.
poor self-images.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. You know, I love music too, Dr. Chin. That's why on my Good Morning Gwinnett show, when I first started to do that show, I started out doing it like everybody else was doing their show. I'm gonna interview some people, and that's all I'm gonna do. But I realized in order for me to get up every morning and do that show, it had to be a show that I want to get up every morning to do. And so my show is not like most people's show. One is live. That's the first thing. Like most podcasters will tell you, I'm not doing a live show. I do a live show 4 days a week live. So you might get all kinds of stuff, but I play music in the show, and I talk about the things that I like. And people like, you play music in the show? Like, I play music in my show. I love playing music in my show. And then I come back and try to sing some of the stuff I hear. And I'm talking junk on the show, but it makes me get up every morning and do that show. And I have done that show through some of the toughest times of my life, but I still did it. And so I realized this is my thing. And I'm okay with that. This is my thing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people have not gotten to that point where they know what that thing is. And so I think with more training like what you're doing, discovering your purpose, I think that's going to be a great training for people who are struggling, for people who are hiding because they're hiding behind their purpose and it's covering, they won't come out. So I feel like that's going to be a great training. So again, tell the people who are listening who can't see the ticker scrolling, how can they find out more about the class and how to register?
You can find out this next class, Discovering Your Purpose and Writing Your Life Mission Statement. You can go to eventbrite.com, Linda Chinn Ministries. You can go to my website.com. And we also put out things on LinkedIn. We put out the flyer on Facebook and Twitter and some of those other things. And so the class is Discovering Your Purpose, November 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then the next Tuesday and Wednesday, the 15th and the 16th. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it's going to require work. This is going to require you to dig into yourself, to ask yourself the questions, and you're going to have fun doing it because you're going to realize there's some things that you knew, but you had no idea that they were part of why you were even born to begin with. It's how you were wired. Like some people say, I'm just analytical. Well, you were wired that way for a reason. Some people like arts and crafts. You were made that way for a reason, right? Some people just like working with wood. You were made that way for a reason. And even in my book, So You Want to Be Anointed, Don't Hinder the Process, you find that there were jewelers in the book. There were people who were literally created to work with wood, to work with metal, to work with jewels. There's a reason. We're all created for something. If somebody's purpose wasn't to create jewelry, we wouldn't wear jewelry. Right? If someone's purpose weren't to make shoes, we wouldn't wear shoes. There's a reason for every purpose. There's a reason. It's not just because. There's a reason that we were created. And it all works together. It all works together. I need you. You need me. I need your gift. You need my gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Is this an in-person class or is this a virtual class or a combination of the two?
It's a virtual class. And that's an excellent question because the part with the mission statement, we're going to have to be in rooms. We're going to be in chat because we're going to work with people one-on-one or with 2 or 3 at a time to help you go through the process of how to drill down to actually write that mission statement, because your mission statement, you ought to be able to roll off your tongue. It doesn't need to be something long and drawn out. So it's online, it's virtual, but we will also be in virtual classrooms. So I will be able to work with you one-on-one or one-on-two, where it'd be very manageable.
All right. Well, another great episode, Dr. Chinn. Thank you once again for just sharing your wisdom. I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me be a part of your process. And I'm sure people are getting a lot out of this. And because we want to live our best life. And the way to do that is to make sure that we're on the right path. You can't live your best life if you're not on the right path. And I thank God for great leaders who just come. My daughter said to me this morning, she said, "Where do you meet these people at?" I said, "No." She said, "Where do you find these people?" I said, "They find me." She said, "Yeah." I said, "They find me." I said, "God sent them to me, so they find me for whatever reason He want them to find me. They find me." And she was talking to somebody on the phone, cracking jokes, like because I was telling her about something that happened. She's like, "My mother meets all these people," and then she told this long story. I said, "Listen, they find me." So let me share this real quick. So one day we were driving in a car. My mom was in the hospital. And we stopped for Wendy's. And there was a man standing in front of the door. He was sitting like on the side of the door. And the man said he was hungry. So I go on Wendy's to get my mom something. And I bring out a bag of food. So when I get to the car, I said to my husband, my car was parked right in front of the door. The two of them were sitting in the car. I said, "What happened to the man that was sitting in front of the door?" They said, "What man?" I said, "Y'all didn't see that man sitting there?" Was no man sitting there. I said, "The man was sitting there. He asked me for some food." They were like, "There was no man." Dr. Chinn, I rode all around the building, down the street. I could not find this man. And so I said to my daughter, "Y'all really didn't see the man?" Like, "We didn't see the man." I'm the only one saw this man. Could not find the man. He left. I brought the food and I went to the hospital and I told my mom, I said, "It was a man asking for some food." I said, "I don't know what that was about, but he did." So my daughter always say I have these strange things that happen to me and strange people that are attracted to me. I said, that must mean I'm strange. It's hilarious. I said, they say like attract like. That must mean I'm strange. So she said maybe it does. But thank you again for just sharing with us. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Chinn. Be sure to listen. Be sure to follow her. Take this class. If you don't know who you are, let's start the new year off finding out the new you. How about that?
Yes.
Right before Thanksgiving, go into the new year knowing who you are and what you're supposed to do on this earth. Thank you, Dr. Chinn.
Thank you, too. I love you. I love you, and I appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you. Love you, too, ma'am.
Till next time.
Have a wonderful day. Peace,
Peace.
everybody.